Hi, everyone, and welcome to OneMicNite, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and real people in entertainment and life, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in the business. My name is Marcos Luis, and I want to thank you all for listening and joining in on this podcast episode. I'm really excited today. My guest is a historian. He's an aficionado. He's keeping alive the history of R&B music. He's the host of WCOS Radio, which broadcasts in the UK, Soul Facts Show. Please welcome Mike Boone to OneMicNite. Hello, Mr. Boone. Welcome.
Hello, Marco. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here on your podcast.
Good. Thank you. Listen, I just want to get right. I have questions. I want to get right into it.
Okay.
Let us know who you are. Who is Mike Boone, the Chancellor of Soul?
Well, as you stated a minute ago, I'm a music historian from New York, Harlem, New York. Music historian, something that I always love to do, tell the history of the artists, R&B artists, or pop artists, it doesn't matter, in this case. I've been doing this for a long time, I DJ'd once, a long time ago, and just continue to keep alive the artists, the R&B artists that deserves more recognition in the music field, you know what I mean? And their music is being played, heard all over TV, television, radio, movie, all over. I mean, they're heard all over the place, but people don't know who these people are. So what I do is just try to tell the story of the artists and get in depth, like stories of the artists, and tell people who they are. Because you hear the music.
Right, yeah.
You don't know who the artists are. So I just give a little summary of who these people really are. Well-deserved,
Well-deserved artists. Interesting. Now, why? First of all, let's do two things. One, let everybody know what's R&B, what's soul music. What's the definition, in your opinion?
It's funny I get this question. There are many definitions of soul. The one I can describe is feeling.
Yes.
Feeling.
Yeah.
It's what you feel in your inner spirit. Because we have an inner spirit, we have an outer spirit. The inner spirit is more, outer spirit is more material. It's like physical. The inner spirit is spiritual, where things seep in, like music and something like that. So, R&B soul is feeling. That's the only word I can describe. There's many definitions. A lot of people like Ray Charles and all will try to describe what soul music is. They have too many definitions, but to me, it's a feeling. It's what you feel in the inner spirit. What they project comes in here.
Right.
What they project to you comes within here. So it's a feeling. It's like an unbelievable feeling you cannot even explain. It's just something that it just makes you want to burst.
Gotcha. So it literally is something that's from your soul, from the spirit around you. Do you feel like that's a cultural history? Is there a history connected to it?
Well, I mean, I know spiritual. Well, I know from slavery times. Yes, call and response, things like that. But yeah, it's definitely historical. Especially among African Americans, with us,
right?
Our heritage and our people, and what we projected. Our ancestors projected during the slavery times, whatever. And it just rolled into the 20th century. That was the 18th, 19th century, and then rolled into the 20th century. And we just took it from there, from jazz to boogie woogie into rock and roll, R&B, which R&B started rock and roll.
Right.
So it definitely is a historical, cultural thing with African Americans, associated with African Americans. And that goes back to, oh my goodness, maybe 200, 300, 400 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Africa.
Why not gospel? Do you deal with gospel music at all? Because my kinship to gospel goes deep too. My grandfather is one of the predecessors of gospel music. He sang for the Fireside Singers. So that was way back in the day. Right. So I grew up listening to gospel music and listening to him on the radio and TV show and things like that.
about. Yeah, definitely gospel. It's definitely, like I said, that goes along back to the slavery time because it was gospel. It was like whatever they couldn't project because of the plantation owners that owned them or whatever like that. They had to project through another way.
Right.
Yeah, it was like gospel number one. That's what really started. You know, that was like the genesis of what this music is about, and gospel into R&B. You know, that projected into that, and from the, like I said, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s soul. You know, late 50s into 60s, early 60s soul, and it was nothing gospel had interjected into that, where it became R&B. You know, it had to, you know, that because the original singers were gospel singers. They grew up singing gospel. So, you know, they just projected because, well, they had to eat. You know, they weren't making any money in the gospel field, like Sam Cooke and all of them. So they just went to the secular field and just started, you know, making money there with R&B. But they never forgot their roots. They injected the roots into what R&B is. And that's where soul comes in, because soul is here. It's okay. It's right here in the spirit. You cannot, you know, like I said, if I play soul music, if I play something, you know, from the past, which I do, and I can't explain what my feelings will project. It's a feeling of happiness. It's a feeling where I can't escape. It's like a bubble that enwraps me. I just cannot. I'm trying to get out, but I can't get out. It's just in me. You know, I feel it. And that's why I said that R&B and soul is a feeling, an unexplainable feeling that you just cannot. It's many definitions. It's so many definitions.
Right.
You know?
Tell us a little bit about your show. You do a lot of things. I know you have the radio show that broadcasts in the UK, and I went back and I revisited some of those shows, and it's fantastic. I want everybody, make sure you revisit this show that's online.
Thank you. Well, Soul Facts, that's the name of the show. It's basically a show that highlights the history and music of R&B artists, and their music and everything. Keeping them, it's like keeping the legacies alive. You know, like I said earlier, I wanted to talk about these artists because I've been in many conversations with people, black and white. And it just seems that more or less another culture of outside people, like Japanese people, I mean, you know, like Asian people, white people, you know, seem to know our culture a little bit more. So not to say our people don't really know, but I wish they would more or less embrace it much more than people outside of our culture. So when I started, you know, when I had conversations, you know, with different people, it'd just be like our people just are learning more when they should know more.
Right.
And I said, no, you know what? I'm gonna do something about this. I want to do a show where basically all the music that is being played in radio, television, movies, movie trailers, everywhere you hear this music or whatever, people don't know who they are.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, you know, it seemed like, you know, more or less our people don't know who they are.
Right.
So I said no. So that's where the Soul Facts show came in. It came in a dream, actually. You know, I woke up 4 a.m. I was asleep and had a pencil and pad, and I wrote down, and I jotted down ideas and, you know, like a proposal more or less on what I want to do with it. I'm half asleep, you know, sleeping in mind. I'm like this. I'm like, okay, just writing down stuff. Then I threw it away. Threw it on the side, and I went to sleep. I wake up the next morning. What's this? Oh, okay.
See, I like that. That's when you know an idea is good.
Right.
That's when it comes to you in the sleep, and then you think about it again.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's what happened with that. And so I just started. A new tool came out called YouTube. And so
that was my next question. When did you start this? No, go ahead. No, you got it. Keep going.
Well, you know, when YouTube came out, you know, it was like maybe 3, 4, 5 years old at the time. You know, it was current. You know, still, you know, in its genesis and its infancy. So I had a dear friend of mine, entertainer named Tony Drake. You know, he passed on. But he was like my mentor and everything. So first we started saying, man, you know, the internet is the way to go. So you need to just get on the internet, man, you know. So I said, yeah, you're right. So then we used the tool of YouTube. That's like global. So I said, yeah, I want to do that. So then, you know, I just sketched out the ideas of who I wanted to do. And first I had to do a test. I did a song, there was a song called Soul Heaven by this disc jockey in New York, disc jockey called Dixie Drifter, Enoch Hawthorne Gregory. He was on WWRL, Super 16 here in New York, AM. And he had a song called Soul Heaven, where he talked about the passing artists at that time, Donna Washington, Sam Cooke, and people like that. And I did my first video on that. I said, oh, this is fun. I said, I want to do this. So then I sketched the idea and said, that's it. And I just started doing it on YouTube. And it grew. You know, I was shocked. You know, everyone's came on and said, oh man, you know, please give me more, you know, all this. And so I said, okay. So I just started doing it. And I've been doing it for years, like around maybe 11, 12 years or so, you know. But I have to tell you the history. It started basically from a website called soulpatrol.com. And a gentleman named Bob Davis.
So you said Soul Troll?
Soul Patrol.
Soul Patrol. Okay.
Soulpatrol.com, yeah.
Okay.
They just revived that, as a matter of fact, this year. You know, he came back with it, you know.
Okay.
So I started writing stories from on soulpatrol.com. And Bob Davis would put my posts of these artists on Soul Patrol where it went global, you know, because this is router. I mean, this thing is global.
Wow.
I said, wow. So, okay. So then people started writing from England, from Holland, all over the place. You know, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, you know. So that's how that started. And it just, you know, it just flowed into what I'm doing now. So that's basically what Soul Facts is. It's just, you know, history of music and the artists, of R&B artists, and preserving the history and telling the story of who these people are.
I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I went online and I looked at some of the videos, and just the amount of information you give in that short little clip is mind-blowing. Like, you learn all these facts about all these artists that you may have heard of and may not have heard of, and it's spectacular. Like, you get a whole history lesson in 10 minutes, 8 minutes, and I love that.
Thank you. I tried to give as much as I could.
So speaking of UK and Japan, what do you think about that? I mean, I feel like soul music, you're right. Soul music is very prevalent in those places. Those people have a hunger to know the history and thrive off of that. I interviewed last week a musician and singer. Her name is Carlene Graham. Make sure you check out Carlene Graham music. She is based in Spain now, but she's from the UK. First of all, her knowledge of soul music is crazy. And, you know, she's a Black artist. And people just want to know. In the UK and Germany and Japan, they have a hunger for this.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think it's just a passion that they have. You know, they're from other parts of the world. The United States, you know, is a fascinating country. We have many genres of people, of you know, many cultures here. And it seemed like Black culture, you know, African American culture is one of the most interesting. And not to disrespect any other culture, because I love looking at other cultures, European, everybody. Right. But just the fact that we have a very fascinating culture, and Afrocentric culture is just amazing. Right. And the music, and how it started, the genesis of the music. So other people from other parts of the world want to know this. They're curious. They have a passion and hunger for it. That's unbelievable. Absolutely. And, you know, and so I think that it's something. It's like, you know, it's a certain toy. You're a little boy. You have a certain toy that you want and you can't have, but you want it. Right. That's what it's like with them. Right. You know, and they hear the music. They hear the ambiance of soul music. And like I said earlier, it's a feeling. It's what you feeling here. That's what they feel. Right. And they will cherish it. They will honor it. They will, you know, polish it and do everything they can to preserve it. And that's what I love about the people overseas that preserve. That's the number one word. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know? And they believe in preserving soul music, R&B music. No matter who the artist is, you know, the unsung heroes of R&B. And, you know, they amaze me. They absolutely amazed me, because I had talked to some people and they've asked me questions over the years when I was on Soul Patrol. You know, Mr. Boone, Chancellor, how do you, who is this? Where did he appear at? You're from Harlem, right? So and they, oh my goodness, I used to get with that stuff from overseas.
Right.
What
was the scene like for you here? Have you always been based in Harlem, in New York?
Yes.
Because New York is crazy. I'm in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Now, all right.
What was the Harlem scene like for you, and music wise?
Back in the day, or just
back in the day, like
back in the day.
Yeah.
Man, I think we'd be here all day. I tell you, man, it was the most exciting time in my upbringing. Because my second home, I called it the Apollo Theater.
Yes.
I've been going there since I was 3 years old. My mother used to take me and her and her friends. She would sit me on her lap, and I would see some of the greatest people on earth that graced that stage.
Right.
And it was exciting. My adrenaline used to go up every single time, people's nerves.
Right.
And, listening to the radio, like I mentioned earlier, there was a station here in New York, AM station, top 40 station called WWRO, and a sister station, WLIB. And we were tuned to that constant 24/7. And they played some of the greatest RnB music in the world. Okay, and you're talking about soul, and you're talking about the ambiance of Harlem, Afrocentric. People were taking Swahili classes, they were taking karate, they were embracing Africa. They were embracing Africa, embracing the instruments,
right?
The dashikis, the various colors, and the representation of Africa. That was important to Black people. And getting the naturals. Getting an Afro was extremely important to us, because everybody reached to conk their heads for acceptance.
Exactly.
And it was like, which was nice. Yeah. I mean, some pretty people came out of there, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But I'm just saying that when you learn acceptance within yourself as a person, Black people,
right?
I want to go natural, man. I want to just be me.
Right.
And that's when, like around 1966, 67, 68, those was in. Sisters was wearing afros, the earrings.
Right.
They were accepting themselves.
Right.
They, Black is beautiful. This is during the Black Panther time, during the revolution of the Black Panthers and the different parent organizations that were in the community where you can go to, the marches, the parades, the African American parade in '68. I remember seeing the Black Panthers with their liberation colors, flag, and just Black is beautiful, chanting that.
Right.
And James Brown coming out with "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," and just embracing ourselves as a people.
Right.
It was exciting, man.
Right. Speaking of James Brown, how important was music for that fight, for that struggle, for that pride, for that everything?
James Brown is my hero. He's my number one hero since I was going back to 3 years old. And James Brown was a street cat. He was from the streets, he was from the ghetto. We can relate to him.
Right.
When he spoke truth, he spoke from his heart. He said, I've been there. I've shined shoes in front of the radio station that I now own. You understand? And I came up poor, dirt poor, holes in shoes, didn't have an education, but I got blessed. And I had a talent, and I used that talent and to not only for myself, but for my people, to uplift my people.
Right.
So when he came out and I saw him at the Apollo in his prime, and I was a little boy, he said, listen, I'm a Black man. I'm a proud Black man. I'm one of you. I know where you're coming from. I know how you feel.
Right.
But you can make it as an individual. Education. He strived education to Black people. Education is the number one key to success. He always strived that. And he started a program, Don't Be a Dropout program, back in '66 with Hubert Humphrey. So he had a record called Don't Be a Dropout. So James Brown was like the number one symbol and hero for us as a people back in the day. And getting to say it loud and Black and I'm proud, he saw a video on the news of Black people just, we always used to get negative news back in the day as we do now. Yeah. And so, he saw that with his band leader, Pee Wee Ellis. He said, Mr. Ellis, why black people don't love each other? Why they always gotta fight one another, kill one another? You know, why don't we uplift ourselves? And so that night he wrote, Say It Loud and Black and I'm Proud. He showed it to Pee Wee Ellis, and then they sketched out the music and the arrangements. And next thing you know, that record was on the streets. And it was the most incredible thing to, you know, because it related to all shades of our culture.
So it's Marcos Luis, we're back again, and we're talking with the Chancellor of Soul, Mike Boone. And we're talking about James Brown and what life was like and the whole movement of music and you know, life was back then. James Brown sort of pushed it forward, you know, with rights and equality and things like that. Who else was in the scene that sort of pushed it forward, musically or otherwise?
There was quite a few. There was Curtis Mayfield, we discussed before. He was an integral part of the civil rights movement with his songs, and a lot of the Dr. King's followers, or not followers, but more his people that associated with him used to sing not only the gospel, but they sing Curtis music, you know, like We're a Winner and People Get Ready, inspirational songs that Curtis composed, and they would, you know, sing during the movement. My goodness, Nina Simone, another one, who definitely revolutionaries, you know, in a lot of ways. Her and, oh my goodness, a lot of the soul singers back then were instrumental in playing a part as far as civil rights and the ambiance of what was going on at that time. You know, it wasn't all about dancing, you know what I mean? It wasn't all about doing the boogaloo with shing-a-ling. You know, it was political aspects that they were trying to express through their music and through poetry. You know, we had Embry Rockery, we had Nikki Giovanni, you know, we had Sonia Sanchez, another one, you know. I mean, it was an array of people, an array of, you know, groups. Now it's just singers, but it was just, you know, all around.
Right. And I love that because some of those people you mentioned are still around today, and it still resonates with today's movement.
Yes.
You know, Sonia Sanchez, you know, it's crazy. And Nina Simone, you still feel that, you know, soul music when you hear it today.
Well, absolutely, because when she composed Young, Gifted, and Black, she it was in tribute to Lorraine Hansberry, you know, who was a writer for Raising the Sun. They were best friends. So, but it was significant to the times because this is the late 60s you're talking about. And when she composed that was late 68, right into 1969. And so we needed an uplift in our community. With James Brown, we already left up James Brown, Say It Loud and Black and I'm Proud. So now inspirational songs were coming out about our people and to uplift our people. There was a song, some rare soul song that I play all the time on my iPod. It's called Black is Beautiful. And it was a guy named Nicky Lee. And WWRL, the station I mentioned in the last segment, used to play that all the time. Black is beautiful, you know. And that was the slogan, that was a saying back then to uplift our spirituals, in the spirit. And so that one, and it just, oh man, I mean, I could be here all day with so many people who contributed to the Black Caucus and the civil rights and the ongoings of what was happening at that time. I mean, it was rent strikes, it was a lot of stuff that was going on in Harlem at that time and in New York in general. But with Black people, that was the main, I would say, focus was just to keep us uplifted.
Right. Love
ourselves as a people, you know, and to appreciate our culture.
Right. Do you feel like it's gone full cycle, you know, in the present day, or has it just never gone away? Like where we're at now?
Well, I basically say it hasn't really gone away, you know, because now you have the younger generation, the millennium generation that's carrying the torch, basically. And then you got the new music out with the neo soul and everything like that. They're trying to keep the ambiance of soul music from the 60s onto now, you know. Right. The torch has been carried on to a new generation of people. And I believe it's still, now if you're talking about the same feel as it was in the old days, well, maybe not.
Right.
But the torch is still carried. That's the important thing. And the important thing is that the fact that they will take whatever was going on in the 60s and, extend it to what's going on today, because it's basically the same thing. What happened in the 60s going on right now, police brutality, everything that's going on. And, and so it's just a different time. It's just a different century, but it still remains the same, just about.
How do you think that resonates? I know your show is, in the UK. How do you think that resonates across the seas, overseas? Not so much the movement, but just the music. Why do you think it, is so big in the UK and across Europe?
I would say the love of soul music, love of our culture, first of all. Yeah. That's number one. And then the soul music and where it came from, the genesis of it, which is from Africa. People from all walks of life are fascinated with our culture. And I can't say for a strange reason, but it's just our culture is so enriched. It's unbelievable. And people overseas accept it. I mean, they wish, I guess it was their culture because it's so enriched. We had Africans that knew mathematics, that, knew the seas by just through their minds and everything, and the spices and the foods they made and the ingredients and things, just from up here.
Right, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and the music, it was just from their soul, as I explained the last time, So overseas, they love our culture and they love our music. They will take music, artists that have made it halfway through this in this country.
Right.
And we will just dispose it and we'll just get rid of it. Where the people overseas are like, oh no, we'll take that. It's like, recycle it. And we'll take it and just build it up. So that's why you had so many artists go over there and live, because they were kings and queens over there.
Right.
They weren't getting paid over here. They were just like, well, you're old and we can just, we don't need you anymore. That music is dead. That music is, it's not alive anymore. But the people in England and France, Holland, Japan, China, all these places all over the world embraced our culture and music. So today, it's even more widespread than it's ever been before. Because it started in 1969. It's called Northern Soul. Mm-hmm. And so that's where it all began in the club, the Twisters Club, Twister Wheel Club, or something like that, with different various clubs that just took this rare soul music and just brought it in, and those same people just to come over, and entertain us, So it's kind of uplifting in a way, and it's kind of sad in a way, because here in the U.S. we should appreciate everything that we present, whereas entertainment, or our culture, everything, what I mean? So they over there, they love it, man. It's like, I'm happy that my radio shows resonate over there, because, when they picked up my radio show, going on 4 years now, Classic Hits UK, a gentleman named David Abbey had picked it up from YouTube, and that's where it originally came from. He loved it. He said, Chancellor, I would love to broadcast that on my Classic UK. I said, fine with me, So it's been there ever since, and so I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud that the music and the legacy stays alive.
Yes. And I personally am excited because, like I said before, I visited some of those things, and it's like a whole new world for me, because growing up in pop culture, you don't really see that. You don't really know the history of where this all came from, and every now and then you'll hear a sample of some music and you're like, oh well, man, that's new music. The kids say, oh, that's new music. No, it really isn't, because it came from somewhere else. And then you go back and you revisit that whole thing, and it's a whole new world.
Absolutely.
A whole new feeling.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. When rap came out, I was a teenager. So in Harlem, it was just it was like a new phase, because every generation of kids wants something different.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the 40s, it was bebop, and then boogie woogie, and then went into rock and roll with Little Richard and Fats Domino and all of them, So they wanted something new, something exciting. Even the white kids, you know what I mean? Because even the white kids, they were bored with Pat Boone, they were bored with Gail Storm and all these white artists, and not to take anything away from them, but they wanted something exciting, and in the spirit, they was crying. So when Little Richard and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and Lloyd Price and Frankie and the Teenagers came out, man, it was like, oh my God, rock and roll. This is it, man. So every generation wants something new. We as teenagers wanted something new in the 70s. I mean, we had disco, we had funk, we had fusion, jazz fusion, Miles Davis and British Brew. We had all of this stuff, in like a Mulligan Stew type of musical thing that's, described. But when rap came out, and I used to go to, we used to call it jams back then. So we used to go to jams in the park. The guys had the equipment out, like DJ Kool Herc and, DJ Hollywood, who doesn't get mentioned. Grand Wizard Theodore, who was faster than Flash. He's another guy that everybody should know about. You know what I mean? Everybody should know, not just Flash, should have got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Grand Wizard Theodore was one of the fastest spinners.
This is killing me. You're killing me because you're like a volcano full of information. This is, you know what I mean? Like, this is so exciting, so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's our, our history, our culture.
Yeah.
As far as rap and everything, I mean, being there was exciting, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't violence. It wasn't about violence. It wasn't about killing one another or disrespecting our systems or whatever like that. It was like crew against crew. Right. Who can rap the best? Who had the best women? Who can fly in the Duff OJ? You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. OJ, of course, that was like a limousine type of thing.
Right, like true rap battles, but not demeaning people and things like that. And the women.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's what that was about. It wasn't, I'm not gonna say it was no violence back then, it was, but not as bad as it is now. Went over the gang violence and everything like that, but there were gangs. But if you stayed out of their territory, you were cool, you know what I mean? They ain't bothered you, didn't bother them, but we all came together. We were there, of course, to meet the girls and listen to the music and, hear the guys cut and who was the best rapper, in Harlem World. That was another place I used to go. The Fever in the Bronx, another place, Sedgwick Avenue, all these, places where these people would be at, Treacherous 3 and Spoonie G and DJ Hollywood, as I mentioned, and later the Fat Boys and all that came later. But I mean, the real hardcore genesis of rap. Bobby Robinson, another store, 125th Street. He was the one he should get credit also because he had a studio in the back of his store on 125th Street. And all the rappers, Grandmaster Flash, all of them, Spoonie G, all of them just go back there in the studio and rap and bring these records out. And he was one of the first to bring rap on record.
Oh, wow.
One of the first. But there was, everybody says the Sugar Hill Gang was like the first commercial.
Right.
But, okay, yeah, you could say that, but there was another rap song that came out months before that, was called King Tim III Personality Job. And his name, King Tim III, with the Fatback name. This was months before the Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight. So the Fatback Band doesn't get credit neither, or King Tim III, and that was really the first, commercial rap that was released on record. Then came the Sugar Hill Gang, but it got more notoriety because Sylvia Robinson, who had Sugar Hill Records, who was phenomenon in the music business. She's the godmother of rap, as they call her. But, she's been around a long time and had connections and just put it out there. The next thing you know, we were from the streets and then it was on the radio. Like, what? That was like unheard of, like a rap song on the radio? Black radio?
Yeah.
What? Nah, it was, but it was just exciting. To hear that. And then it crossed overseas, as we talked about earlier,
right,
to England. Then the white people started listening to the Sugar Hill Gang because they got more press. And they got, commercials. So when it started playing on the radio, the next thing you know, it kind of blew up. And then it made history. We know we was making history then. Everything.
People thought it wouldn't last, and look at it now.
We thought listen, let me tell you something. If you told me in the summer of 1978, when I was in the Bronx in Castle Hill, that Merlin, the magician, came in and said, Mike, let me tell you, this stuff right here, man, in about 40 3 years, it's gonna be $1 billion business. I looked at him, now he's Merlin, he's supposed to know everything. He knows the future, he foretells everything. And this guy, I'm like, I mean, you up to your mind. You crazy, this ain't gonna happen. Right. You know what I mean? It was just for us, it was underground. It was just a thing that we loved. So, but that Merlin was correct. Yeah. It's $1 billion business, man.
Sure is.
Know? And it's ongoing.
Sure is. So tell us a little bit about your show too. The online show, well, in the UK and the one you have online on video.
Well, it's basically the same thing. It's called Soul Facts, and Soul Facts basically is a show that highlights the music and the history of R&B and pop artists, you know, and keeping their legacies alive, telling their stories, how their music came to be about, how they came to be about as artists. And a lot of people don't really know who these people are. So I had the idea of just telling stories individually and including their music. So, you know, because people know their music. Some people know their music through commercials, TV shows or whatever.
Right.
But you don't know who these artists are, you know? And so it was like, okay, you know, it's time to bring a show out that would tell the story and keep the legacy alive of these artists that were in the past, but who still being played today. You know what I mean? And that's the whole key. So Soul Facts is based on that, and the actual factual of the artist, the music, they're behind the background and everything like that. So it's basically the same show in the UK because they picked it up from YouTube. I started on YouTube, and just, you know, the pictures and the music and everything, give people a general idea of what Soul Facts is. And so they picked it up from there and loved it. You know, Classic Hits UK, and they just said, David Abbey said, I love it, man. You know, can we just air it on there? So it airs every Sunday at 3 o'clock. I just want to let everybody know that too.
Good.
You know, so anybody want to listen to it audio, they can, you know. So that's basically what Soul Facts is. Just it's just like a gateway for a lot of, I'm not going to say unsung, but somewhat, because these people sold millions of records.
Right, yeah.
You know, but it's just they're forgotten. Nobody remembers who they are. And I thought that was kind of unfair, you know, for their music to be played. And the generation of now and before didn't know who these people were. So that's basically what it is. It's just to keep their legacy alive.
Legacy alive. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Is there any specific way that you go about choosing people, or you just giving everybody the history of everybody, like that whole genre of people?
No, well, you know, not really, because I mean, like, I listen to music a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever I want to listen to, I say, you know what? Not a story told about them, so maybe I do something on them. Or, nah, you know, it depends on my my mood, my whatever my spirit tells me to do. Say, hey man, you know, it nudges me and say, hey man, you need to do a story and such and such, you know. So it's basically through when I listen to music, or it just pops up in my head, you know, whoever, because music constantly plays in my head 24/7. I can wake up with music. Wow. And go to sleep with it, you know what I mean? And it's been like that ever since I was 3-4 years old. So whoever I think of, and I feel is that they're not out there in the world, you know, I would say documented. I mean, they may be in books or whatever, but visual in this generation, in this time, I would say I want to do this particular artist, or you know, it's just inspiration just comes from nowhere. You know what I'm saying? My, you know, divine spirit just boom pops up and I just do it. You know, so that's basically where the general idea comes from.
I like that. So when it's all said and done, what is it that you want to leave behind? What's the legacy you want to leave behind from the Chancellor of Soul?
Wow. I would like to leave what I'm basically doing right now. I want to leave a legacy of cherishing the artists that I cherish as a youth, as a child. All the people that I'm doing now, and people can know who they are and appreciate them, that's the legacy I want to leave, you know, because that's what I am. I'm a music historian. That's what God had told me to pursue. And basically that's it. You know, they could just remember the, you know, Chancellor Soul as being a music historian that just kept the legacy of R&B artists alive and telling their stories and just putting it out there in the world. That's the kind of legacy I want to leave.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, keep doing what you're doing because we're loving it and we are inspired by your work, and thank you very, very much Let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and how they can reach you and find your show.
They can reach me at Mike. Yeah, they can reach me at Mike Boone 2, the number 2 at AOL.com. They can reach me there when they want to email me and have any questions or whatever. And through Facebook, Mike Boone, Chancellor Soul. They can reach me there and join in or whatever. And they can check out my videos on Chance B on YouTube.
Chance B on YouTube.
Yeah, Chance B on YouTube, and all my videos are displayed there. But as far as getting contact, that is, they can contact me at MikeBoone2 at AOL.com.
Very good. We got you. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, make sure you go to YouTube, Chance B on YouTube, and find the Chancellor of Soul and everything that he's doing, because it's incredible. Thank you all for listening. This is OneMicNite. Follow us on all social media, OneMicNite Podcast. OneMicNite is spelled ONEMICNITE. And you can follow me at Marcos Luis, MARCOSLUIS on all social media too. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you next time on OneMicNite, the podcast. Thank you.
God bless.